We have a video due for this class next week, right?
Yes, and I'm going to ask you on the next video to post it to YouTube, not to try to give it to me in any other format. So get ready to find yourself a YouTube channel. You can do it. I did it. I'm over 60. And you can keep it entirely just you and me looking at it.
One thing, what assignment we had this week for Kathy Russell was a resume.
Yeah.
I haven't wrote, or I don't think I've ever wrote a resume. And I did one a couple of years ago for a promotion, and the resume that I did in her class, she doesn't even have a book. She's just got a whole lot of examples and reading, and we do PowerPoints, and then we read her. She gave us all the examples, and then I made up a resume. And when I got done, I really did get the feeling of, wow, that was pretty good. I mean, I actually made a resume. We had to find a job online that actually fit the criteria that we could apply for.
You gotta do that
But
too.
there was a whole lot gained. I've gained a lot of, now I think the APA could be left out.
I agree for the OM program,
But-
and I'm going to make that point. May I ask a question?
Yeah.
What is her position, or anybody else that has you doing resumes, what is their position on one-page versus multiple-page resumes?
We were
She's
talking
one
about that at work
page.
today.
She says one page unless you have a whole lot of qualifications that go for that job.
Okay?
She says that.
In the real world, which I'm
Oh,
learning,
Yes.
the resume is not what matters now. It's getting through the computer generated,
yeah.
that kicks you out. So you have to make sure that you have all the buzzwords that job is looking for. If the job says that they want somebody who develops, coordinates, and programs, or
use those
you
words.
need to use those specific words in the application. You can attach a resume, but that's not what is going to get you in front of anybody.
That doesn't get you through the filter.
Right.
If you get through the filter and somebody wants to look at you, the resume is helpful.
Our company doesn't have a computerized system. You come in and you still physically sit down and write out an application, or if we are looking for a specific skill set, like in our engineering department, we'll put out some ads on Craigslist here and there and ask people to mail in resumes, but we do not have any computerized system. So there are
But
always-
you will one day, because it's really simple to put together. And it's cheaper than hiring another HR
Well,
person.
You know what I got told whenever we started? Because we had stacks of applications. It only went through 5,000, no, I'm apologizing, 13,000 in the first year well, as a startup company. And what I got told was that every one of them had to come in, sit down in the lobby, and write it. And you get to physically see that they can write. And it seemed like a crazy concept, I guess to me, but it makes sense because we've had them come in and they're like, can I take it with me? And they're like, no, we want you to sit down and write it. And they're like, well, I can't write. I'll have to get somebody to come up here with me.
Don't need them.
But we at least get to see that
Sure.
versus,
I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Go ahead.
I have to say it's the opposite for the University of Florida, because I've been working in the HR field there for over 15 years, and they're all computerized. It is really to your benefit to use those specific words. You look at the position description, you see what they're saying, but using them in like a cover letter, and also crafting your resume like that, because they will want you to upload a resume. And they don't want you to do like a whole biographical sketch. You might have worked somewhere for 20 years, but you pick and choose which areas pertain to that job that you're applying to.
Yep.
And so it could be, 2 pages long. But, if they don't want a book, and then it depends on what field you're going into. If it's a medical field, obviously, they want your whole past. But
What's your preference?
My opinion is, first off, if you're sending in blind resumes anywhere, you're way behind the power curve. If you're sending resumes to people who don't know you, why? Get off your ass and use your network. Okay? That's step one, is we find our best employees not by plowing through thousands of resumes, but by asking our best employees. And then, when we get a reference, and we say, oh, cool, tell them to send us a resume. I want something that tells me what you've done. And if you can tell me all the great things you've done in one page, you're probably not the work person I'm looking for unless it's an entry-level job. So for me personally, and I've written them professionally for a fee for 25 years, I don't believe in a one-page resume. A one-page resume is designed to be sent blind, and I don't work with people that way.
So do you want a job history, a chronological job history?
I want a chronological description of your title, responsibilities, and the great things you did, as concise as you can make it. I really want only 2 pages.
How do you feel about the objective statement?
I open it up and I don't say objective. I don't give a damn what your objective is. Tell me what you got. And I open it, I say offering, 15 years experience, blah, 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 and a wonderful personality, or, being trite. But I do that in italics because it's an eye catcher. And if you phrase it right, it's all hooks. You want to get them to read the next line. And if you get that first line down to where they say, oh, that sounds interesting, now you got them. Now bring them on through. To me, 2 pages, and a 3rd page is where you put your references. Don't send me a resume that says references available on request. I don't have time for that nonsense. If you look good, I want to pick the phone up and call these people. And the fourth page, I want a cover letter. I want a nice professional cover letter that describes things maybe that aren't in the resume, but I want to hear your voice. I want to hear, what kind of person is this? Do they have a sense of humor? Do they have maybe, I don't know, something about them that tells me this is a human being, not somebody who's just reciting facts? So that's what and that resume package is the one I want to put in the hands of somebody who's already expected me, who's already heard a little bit about me. And the other thing is this, when you're applying for a job and you're going through resumes and job interviews, do you understand you're interviewing the company too? That it's absolutely acceptable. In fact, you ought to be looking at it in terms, do I really want to work here? If these people are a bunch of horses' ashes, maybe you don't want to work there. If they're going to be jerks about this and jerks about that, and you want to work for that, well, there's a word for that. It's called prostitution. Okay? You might as well stand out on 34th Street with your sign, we'll work for food. So be selective and use your network, which is the next topic I want to talk about. But before we go there, what else is on your mind? Anything?
Do you think it's important to add your hobbies or activities?
No, I don't give a damn what your hobbies are, unless they say something unique about you. Okay? And I'm not sure what that might be, and it might vary with the kind of job I'm looking for. I'll tell you one thing you don't put on there, because one of my dearest friends did. He's asked me to review his resume, and down at the bottom, lifetime NRA member.
Yep.
I said, John, are you crazy? I mean, yeah, there's some people you don't want to work for, but there's some people you might want to work for who still are anti-gun. Why say that? It's not necessary. Generally speaking, I'm not so sure today. The people in HR will know more. I typically want some indicator about your health, that you're in good health.
How would you put that in a resume?
No,
I put it down at the bottom. I might say interests, and I want to make it sound like I'm kind of interesting, so I don't put economics. I might put I enjoy Eastern philosophy and reading and da-da-da, and then I will add a line. Health is excellent health condition or something like that. So that I can reassure them that I'm not going to be a chronic calling in late, calling in sick, those kind of problems.
Would that be like
Definitely don't
sort of
put it for kids.
discriminating against somebody who isn't really?
Yeah, that's an EEO.
Oh, absolutely. Let me ask you this. Should you send your picture on your resume?
No.
No,
Why not?
we've been told not
It's
to.
tacky. You don't want them to hire you to wait on how you look. You want them to hire you on, what you
I don't,
know.
I'm not sort of.
It's just not done yet. I mean, it hasn't been adopted, it's not adopted practice.
It's
yet.
not adopted practice. I'm talking about the principle involved. And my point is, here's me. If I ain't who you want, then don't waste my time or yours.
I agree.
Okay? Now you see the balance between that versus lifetime NRA member? I'm not trying to offend anybody over there. But if I'm not the kind of guy you're looking for, I mean, if you're looking for somebody 6'2" and 30 years old, it's not the short, fat white guy here. Okay, fine.
Besides, you should be promoting yourself for what the position is asking for the same reason that when they interview you, that they're sticking to the guidelines of the position. I mean, that's what they're hiring you for.
Okay, you triggered another thought. I'm going to tell you this is personal view. Everything here is opinion, right? My opinion. The job description, the higher you go up in the ranks, the less the job description has to do with what you're going to do.
That's
You know? The job description becomes a funny thing to laugh at over a drink. I thought I was gonna do that. Let me tell you how I spend my days. 60 hours a week, okay?
5%.
John, you had I'm sorry,
I
Susan?
said 5% other, that's what we all joke.
You say
about.
5%? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna give it 20, but okay.
Well, I mean, that's what they say in the job description, but it's what you end up doing most of the
Well,
time.
what's the last line on every professional job description? Other duties as assigned.
As assigned, right.
Yeah, so, would you pick up my laundry on the way home today and bring it in tomorrow morning?
Plug in my.
How bad do you want this time? John, you had a comment or a question?
Yeah, it's just, showing my, I've been working on my resume the past, since I've been here. at San
Yeah, and I know, I told you I'd look at it and I haven't gotten it back to you yet. Go ahead.
So,
Well, you've heard all my opinions, what the hell?
right. So, and I've heard many different opinions, just about anyone you take your resume to, they're gonna have a different opinion about it. And so what I think, like you said, using your network and knowing who you're sending your resume to, you'll know how to cater that resume towards that individual.
I agree.
Because I know
But-
that my boss now, he would not read a two-page resume.
Okay,
That's in
that's
the
cool.
private sector.
Yeah. I mean, knowing him is lucky if he would get halfway through it,
How will he decide if he's gonna hire you or not?
by coming in and talking to me.
Fine. That's super. And maybe that's what you would want to angle for. I lost my thought there.
Well,
Anybody
and
else?
another thing, if you're gonna send your resume or statement of qualifications within your corporation,
Mhm.
would it be different? If you're gonna send it
Not
to-
terribly. No. Think about this too. How many of you are on LinkedIn? Right? LinkedIn has a place for you to publish and present your resume. So that's going to be the same for everybody that reads it. And I think we should all be keeping something like that available to provide on call at any instant. So I think you've got to come up with some sort of comfortable but generic resume that's available.
I like LinkedIn a lot. I mean, there's so many job opportunities.
Mhm.
It's just, I'm waiting for me to be done with school.
Mhm.
And so, but they're all over the country all the time. I see them.
I joined LinkedIn probably 7 or 8 years ago, and in the last year, I've had more requests for connections than I had in the previous 7
Yes,
years.
I agree with
And
you.
it's coming from all, I mean, it's coming from everywhere, and of course, in my field, so, it's mostly coming from law enforcement, military contractors, that kind of thing that are involved in security and one thing and another. But I have no idea who these people are, and they're wanting me to endorse their
Yeah, that's silly.
their
That's just
resumes and stuff like that. And I'll connect with them, but I don't.
No, I don't endorse
anything.
them.
And I've had people endorse me for things that I've never even done.
Yeah.
And
So-
I don't connect with people who don't know. I don't do that.
John, did you tell me you have a video on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I do. The one that we did for this class.
Okay.
I put it on there.
And again, I think that's big medicine. When I look at somebody's resume or anything else, and then I can go look at them and talk, or hear them talk, that clears the board real quick. I either like you or I don't, so I'm not going to waste your time, or I'm really interested.
Yeah,
I think that's
look
fine.
at it, and it's all a process. Everything's
Sure.
a process and making things better. And my next video that I make, I'm gonna replace it and update it.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
Are we allowed to have another person in our videos, or is it just ourselves?
Would he be dancing or something?
No, like a friend of mine suggested it would be more natural if they sat like on the other side of the camera and asked the questions and did like an interview with me. Because I was so unnatural looking in my last video.
My preference is just you.
Okay.
I want to see just you. I don't want to see how you're reacting to anybody, anything like that. That's a bias on my part. But to me, if you can do it, if you can pull it off by yourself, I think you have the self-confidence and the presentation that I'm looking for. Okay? Joe?
Just as an example on networking, I told you how we initially hired to start up. Now the only people that get in to turn an application in, and I mean, we don't even accept applications unless you're referred. So if you come to the gate and you want to come in and fill an application, unless somebody within the organization has came to a supervisor or manager and said, hey, I got a buddy, I think you'd do good here, we don't even
And
Let the application.
given today's economy, when hiring isn't strong, we can expect that. If this economy ever does recover, and I preface that with the word if, and we start hiring more actively and we start needing more workers, you may modify that. But today, absolutely. Okay, anything else?
You mentioned you call people's references.
You bet.
What do you feel you gain out of that?
At Santa Fe, our protocol is you don't have to have them write me. You have to give me their names and contact points, and I have to physically call them to be sure they're real people. That's mostly it.
Anything negative?
Almost never will there be anything negative, but at least it's been a real live person I talked to, not somebody you made up.
Well, what about calling, their former places of employment? Isn't that, to me, that's more beneficial.
But they're
To me, it's not.
They don't give
No,
anything
but
out anymore.
legally, they can't give
Yeah.
anything except for dates.
If I have something bad to say about somebody, I can convey that if they're listening.
If it's documented and they've given you permission to contact them, and if the negative information has been documented, you are allowed by law to give that information.
No argument there, but how much of it's ever going to be documented?
The other thing is, though, you can tell by the different ways that you ask a question, the hesitation in the person's voice, how they saw it. So you can tell a lot when you do that.
I think that depends very much on the person you're talking to. If you call me checking on Jim, and I want to tell you some bad stuff about him, but I know legally I can't, and you're listening, I'll make darn sure you understand.
Exactly.
So was he a pretty good employee? Jim? Yeah, I suppose so. Hello? What does that mean?
Or
That means Jim didn't put you down as a reference.
the other
Agreed.
thing is, if you ask them and they say, these are the only things that we can do by law,
That's a
telling you
giveaway.
something right there.
That's a giveaway.
We had this bias at our department, we have an employee that in another department, for the Department of Transportation, transferred from Miami up to
Yeah.
Gainesville. And the reference rating, just greatest employee ever, turned out to be the living nightmare, Satan in itself, as far as when she got there. And I actually talked to an employee, Kier, oh my God, thank God she left. Everyone there hated her. And so to get her out, they basically gave her raving reviews on the references.
But see, you can also, companies can sue former people if there's a record of that, because they have to.
And actually, HR didn't do their job and follow up with HR. There was actually grievances filed against them. They didn't find. So, yeah, raving reviews from the supervisors. Oh, she's great. I'd hire her again in a minute.
Well, I think it's evident that there's a lot of opinions on resumes and formats and all that kind of stuff. Let me go one step further. Networks. Been reading the networking stuff. Been reading, and some of your presentations are outstanding. They're so beautifully laid out, easy to comprehend. Who was it? Howard. Howard Adams' networking thing was 14 pages long, single-spaced. I mean, he went into detail about who he knew and how to approach him and what he was going to do, and here's my schedule and calendar and timeline and deadline, and phenomenal. But there were a couple of things I've run across I wanted to mention very quickly. And the first one that jumps out at me is somebody who says, my primary close-in inner-ring network is mostly family. What does that mean? It means you ain't been out all in the real world much, son. Now think about this. Would you go to your parents and ask them to recommend you for a job?
No.
Why not?
Because they're gonna obviously say you are the greatest.
They're either going to lie for you, right? Or maybe they're telling the truth, but in any case, you're asking them to put their reputation, their relationship with that person on the line for you. And if you don't meet those aspirations and expectations of that employer, you have ruined that relationship for your parents.
Correct.
Go ahead.
I've actually done that a couple times. My mom works for the town of Micanopy, and she's recommended me for small jobs, not like a big job or anything, but small jobs for certain people, and I've had all of them call me back for a second time.
Good.
So
I'm just telling you that some of the caliber of some of the students I've seen around here, if their parents recommended them to me for a job, I know what I'd be getting, and I'd be very disappointed. And so my message is really to those people who don't have much work experience, who are not a proven quantity, and you ask your parents to put their reputation on the line to recommend you for something, you're asking more of your parents than you deserve.
It seems, that reminds me a lot of what I always heard, that you shouldn't go into business with family. And for the
Oh,
same reasons.
absolutely. I haven't seen one work well yet. A couple of you have pointed out, it's not who you know, it's who knows you and what you can do. You understand the difference, right? That's cool. What I'm concerned with, the thought I want to get across to you, if you've got a network of 10 people, what you're trying to do is to create value for any and all of them that you can. But the way you're doing that is you're looking at this person saying, what can they do, not that will benefit me, but that will benefit this other person in my network. You see what I'm saying? You become a broker. And so-and-so here always has season football tickets, but doesn't always use them. And so-and-so here said he's got his brother and sister coming into town, would love to get tickets. If you can set that up, you've got friends now. You've got people who see value in you. And if you've got 10 people, you've got 100 chances, 10 squared, maybe. If you've got 50 people in your network, what are your probabilities of brokering those exchanges in value? Whether it's information, whether it's helpfulness, a service. The more people you've got out there that you're in comfortable contact with, first, second, third tier, I don't care, the more you can move that help and information back and forth. So many of you I've written back and I said, you need to set up a timeline, specific tasks on what you're going to do to go out and meet more people or to nurture the people you have here and build that network. Because if it's just going to be 5 or 10 people, you can't do them as much good as you could as if you had 20 or 30 of them. So I wanted to kind of try to get that point across. The other thing, and this brokering of value, is called building chips too. What have you done, if I'm in your network, what have you done for me in the last 6 months that brought any kind of value to me? And that's how you've got to be thinking. Let's see, Strickland. Strickland likes to fish. I found this interesting fishing lure. I thought I'd give it to him. Or I read a neat fishing report. And so suddenly you're giving me stuff that is helpful to me. What you are doing is you are building chips. When I come to you and say, Jeremy, I'm in a real bind. I got a bad knee and I got to move some stuff in my backyard. Could you spare a couple hours Saturday to come by and help me move this tree out? And if you show up and you do that, you've built the chip. I owe you. And the next time, if you do that 2 or 3 times and then you come to me and you want a favor, you go to the top of the list. That's the person I'm going to help. So you've got to be building these chips. And you've got to be damn sure, going back to resumes and job recommendations, that you don't ask for something from your network that puts them at risk. That you don't go to someone in your network and say, I got somebody over here I think is pretty good. You got any kind of job maybe they could get? Unless you think that's 1,000% person. Because you're putting your reputation on the line. You're asking your network member to take a risk on this person. You don't ask for favors until you absolutely have to. But you create favors and create value at every opportunity. And you don't know what is of value to anyone in your network if you don't know them reasonably well. What are their interests? What are their concerns? Okay? Too many people look at networking as a 1 or 2-dimensional problem. Here's my chart. Here's what I'm going to do. It's 4-dimensional. It's 3-dimensional in time, in space plus across time. You've got to continually work at it. Some of you know John Spence. John's a big speaker and graduate. How many people do you think John's got in his network? I mean people he can call up on a first-name basis right now and talk to. And the answer is, my guess, comfortably 2,000. First name. And I'm talking CEOs on down. The more people you have in that network, the more value you can create and the more value it becomes to you. But you've got to nurture it. You've got to take care of it. All right. The Mass is ended. Anything else on your part? Yes, ma'am.
On that note, there's a chamber function tomorrow at the UF Hilton.
Just a
Chamber of
mixer?
Commerce, so if anybody does want to.
Is it just a mixer?
Yeah.
Show up and socialize?
I think you have to pay $20, but you have
Yeah,
$3
if
for
you're a member.
non-members, free for members.
It's after hours,
Okay.
networking.
That's once a month, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
social stuff.
Social styles. Tell me about it.
Wow.
You raised the point. Did you have an issue or a question or a comment about that?
I have no problem doing myself. I have a problem reading, because it's essentially reading other people. That's one of, and it's something that I have to work on because it's something you need as in the managerial. But I don't know, just maybe your take on it.
Some difficulty maybe in finding 6 different examples of styles or whatever?
Absolutely, yeah.
Start with the people closest to you, who you know better.
Okay,
Maureen.
okay.
I mean, surely you know her well enough. But think about this. If you're trying to determine the person's social style, there's going to be some conversations you may have had, but have you ever visited them in their office or at their home? And you pick up cues from that. What do you suppose the office of an I personality looks like? What's on the walls and on the shelves?
All their
Where they've been?
inspirational stuff.
All their awards and pictures of them with important people shaking hands.
Right.
Okay. What do you find with a D? Jim?
Useful things?
Not a damn thing. Don't need them. That's right. Okay? So think in those terms. Think close and work out, and think other venues where you've seen them and what you've seen them doing.
Right, but the book doesn't use that. They use analytical drivers.
Oh, to hell with that book. Use the
Okay.
disc profile.
Yeah, the disc profile is
Okay, so
really
do the
helpful.
disc profile, because it says in chapter 5 with the social, I know this assignment was due yesterday, this is the one I missed, but. it
Well,
was-
the assignment was based on the disc profile, not on that
Okay.
book.
All right. This is the
Incidentally,
second part.
very quick
The
mention.
whole second part is in the textbook.
Huh?
Yeah, but it's
Well,
eligible.
yeah, but the part I'm interested in finding the styles was about disc. Well, I intended it that way. If you use the book, that's fine.
Oh,
it's not a
because
problem.
the directions specifically say the book.
Yes.
Well, I thought I wrote them to say, do the thing in the book so you know what it's about, but go find these styles.
It says based on the disc personality and the discussion
see?
in chapter.
I'm thinking disc, but if you use the book, that's fine.
I felt the same way, and I'm glad I didn't do that, because
Those 4 in there.
Oh, the analytical is the D.
I looked through the book and found the
Okay.
disc.
Yeah, they match up.
Yeah, the analytical is the D.
Analytical's a C, driver's a D, amiable's an S, and
Expressive.
expressive is an I.
I.
Quick mention, when this course is over, if anyone here wants to sell me their Caproni book, I'd like to buy 1 or 2 of them.
You know,
Jeremy?
Two observations I wanted to make in regards to what you were talking about. The first thing is I found the easiest to identify was definitely the D personalities. I thought back in my work in my life and thought, well, that was a D, and that was a D, and there's 3 right there. That's how I found a couple people. But then the other thing, that, and maybe this is how you're supposed to do it, but the way that I did it and found the other people was I thought of someone, and then I thought of that person and what they were like, and then I read every one of the personalities and said, what is this? What are they most like? And that's how I'm not a D.
You're not a D.
I'm a CS.
But he's worked with a lot of Ds.
I've worked with a lot of
That's
Ds.
why you can determine the Ds.
Yeah.
If you're a D, it's very easy to determine the S's.
Yeah.
So I could pick out some S's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine
They're real
Polaris
wussy,
is easy to
you know?
pick up.
Right.
But it says describe it, then you have to, besides describing that person, you also have to explain how
The situation.
would you modify, the direction of a conversation with that person once you understand and you are aware
Once you
of
know how they are, how do you
they
need to
are.
modify your behavior and language to communicate with them more effectively, right? So that's what I'm interested in seeing.
Gotta challenge those Ds. You can't do that. Not possible.
Well, I know that if I make an appointment for Jim to come in and chat with me about something, I'm going to give it how much time? 3 minutes. We'll cover everything in 3 minutes.
I'm gonna tell you a whole story.
Yeah, I know. All right, anything else?
I'm gonna let you talk.
What?
I'm gonna let you talk.
More on the personality styles or on what?
Probably.
Think of some of your teachers, some of the faculty you've known here or anywhere else. How would you identify a faculty member as an S? What would be the giveaways?
A professor that is not willing to, for example, use Canvas now because they don't want to change.
Very good.
People who
Very good. What else? How will they come into class the first day?
This is what I do.
They'll be rather, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can the rest of you hear me? Could you pay attention a little bit, please? Now can you hear me? I don't want to interrupt anybody. Okay, can you hear me now? I wanted to introduce myself in this course. There's some assignments on the syllabus I want you to read. How do you know I'm an S? Because I'm fairly quiet. I don't want to intrude or interrupt your conversations. You probably have intimidated me if you're still talking. So, you know, how do you identify an S? How else can you tell an S? What do we know about S's? Sorry?
Soft-spoken or not really direct.
Soft-spoken, never direct,
Difficult to make decisions.
slow to make decisions. So are C's, though.
Don't like confrontation.
Avoid confrontation at all costs.
Very sensitive.
Quite sensitive, just horribly sensitive, just big sissy.
Where's their emotion?
Low self-esteem.
Pardon?
Low self-esteem.
Not necessarily, but the biggest giveaway on an S is they don't show emotion, particularly when they're upset. You okay? I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Fine, don't worry about it. Right. How do you spot an I? You can't shut them up. They want to talk and be the center of attention and get you entertained and laughing and carrying on and get you excited and inspired. But what do we know else about that I teacher?
If they talk a lot, they're not listening.
They never listen.
Never.
But they're probably not very well organized unless they've got some C somewhere in the makeup. Because they're into get it done now. Never mind the details. How do you spot a C instructor coming into a classroom?
Detail-oriented. Detail-oriented.
Detail-oriented? What physical evidence will there be of that?
Maybe their outfits put together.
Very
Right?
well
Meticulous.
dressed.
Before Canvas, you could spot them because they would come to class with a stack of papers this high. And they'd walk in and set them down and say, now these are some of the readings for this week. And they'd start giving them out. And next thing you know, you've got your stack of readings this high for this week because they want you to know all the details. Now personally, I've used that in the past, the first day of class. I'd put on a coat and tie and I'd come in with that stuff and I'd say, these are the readings for this week. There'll be an exam on it on Monday morning. And what would happen the second day of class?
Bunch drops.
30 to 40% of them would drop the class. And what did I know? Those are the ones who didn't want to work anyway. Less to grade. I used to give all essay tests in economics. I had to thin them out pretty fast. If anything is on your mind, send me some email. We will meet again a week from tonight and bring your calculator. In V12, I think. Yeah.